Waters explains the echoes of a broken nation. Welcome to Cinema Expert Story. Today, we are immersing ourselves in the visceral, gut-wrenching world of Tears of the Sun. This isn't just a war movie. It's a haunting exploration of the thin line between following orders and following one's soul. The story unfolds against the backdrop of the Nigerian Civil War, a landscape fractured by ethnic cleansing and political collapse. Amidst this spiraling chaos, several Americans find themselves trapped, their lives hanging by a thread as the rule of law vanishes. To pull them out of this hellscape, the U.S. government dispatches an elite team of Navy SEALs, men trained to be ghosts, operating in a world that has forgotten the meaning of mercy. The shadows of genocide. However, the mission is compromised from a jump. The rebels, fueled by relentless momentum, get wind of the SEALs' presence, turning a surgical extraction into a potential international incident. The film sets the stage by revealing that Nigeria has been bleeding for 3 long years. While the headlines speak of freedom fighting, the reality on the ground is far more sinister. We see a nation gripped by the bloodlust of genocide, where neighbors turn on neighbors, and the air is thick with the smoke of burning villages. It is a place where humanity is a liability and brutality is the only currency. The burden of command. As the world watches from a distance, aid begins pouring in, a desperate attempt to provide a shield for the innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. But food and medicine can't stop bullets. We transition to a tense briefing room where a captain outlines the stakes to the Navy SEALs. At the center of this unit is Lieutenant A.K. Waters, a man whose face is a mask of stone, seasoned by years of combat and defined by a rigid adherence to the chain of command. Waters isn't looking for a cause. He's looking for coordinates, the objective, and the moral compass. The briefing is grim. Entering Nigeria isn't just a challenge. It's a suicide mission if they are caught. This is a covert op, deniable and dangerous. Their primary objective is Dr. Lena Fiore Kendricks, an American citizen and a dedicated NGO doctor who has stayed behind while others fled. Rescuing her is the non-negotiable priority. Secondary targets include 2 American priests, but the orders are cold. If the priests refuse to move, the SEALs are to leave them behind. The mission is about American lives, not Nigerian souls. Descent into the jungle. The warning from command is crystal clear. If the rebels discover the SEALs, the violence will move from a simmer to a boil. The presence of foreign special forces will trigger a scorched earth response from the rebels, and the very people the NGO is trying to save will be the first to die. The team touches down under the cover of darkness, moving with lethal grace through the dense Nigerian brush until they reach the makeshift hospital where Dr. Lena is frantically trying to hold back the tide of death. The clash of worlds. The moment Waters steps into the operating room, the air crackles with tension. Lena doesn't see a savior. She sees an intruder. She is furious, her hands covered in blood as she demands to know why he is disrupting her work. Waters doesn't have time for pleasantries. He delivers a chilling warning. You have no idea what's coming. The rebels are moving faster than your intelligence suggests. They won't leave anyone alive. Not the sick, not the wounded, and certainly not you. We leave now, or we don't leave at all. The impossible choice. The standoff between Waters' duty and Lena's empathy defines the film's moral heart. Lena looks out at her 70 patients, people who have lost everything and have nowhere else to go. She knows that if she steps onto that transport alone, she is signing their death warrants. She issues an ultimatum that catches the hardened lieutenant off guard. If you want me, you take them too. Waters initially scoffs, citing fuel weights, tactical speed, and his explicit orders. But looking into the eyes of the desperate, he strikes a hard-edged deal. Anyone who can maintain the pace on a grueling 12-kilometer trek to the extraction point can come. The clock begins to tick. The path of the righteous. The group makes a stop to retrieve the American priests, but they find a different kind of resolve there. The priests refuse to abandon their mission or the patients too weak to walk. They choose faith over survival. Waters, bound by the clock and the safety of his team, is forced to leave them in the silence of the jungle. As the trek begins, the reality of the situation sets in. The refugees are slow, terrified, and physically drained. When Waters pushes them harder, Lena snaps back, reminding him that these are mothers and children, not conditioned soldiers. The friction between them is palpable, a clash between the logic of war and the logic of love. The predator in the tall grass. The silence of the jungle is deceptive. Waters, whose senses are honed to a razor's edge, realizes they are no longer alone. The hunters have become the hunted. In a terrifying moment, a rebel scout lunges from the brush, nearly ending Lena's life, but Waters moves like lightning, neutralizing the threat with silent, lethal efficiency. But the victory is hollow. Miles behind them, the rebels reach the mission the group just vacated. In a sequence of heartbreaking brutality, the priests are executed, a grim reminder of the fate awaiting anyone the SEALs leave behind. Betrayal at the extraction point. Exhausted and battered, the group finally reaches the clearing for the helicopters. As the rotors whip up the dust, the trap is revealed. The SEALs move to secure Lena, and she suddenly realizes that Waters never intended to take the refugees. The deal was a tactical ruse to get her to the LZ. She is physically forced onto the chopper, her screams drowned out by the engines, while the refugees are left standing in the grass, their faces etched with a betrayal deeper than any wound. Waters explains the rebirth of AK Waters. The helicopters rise, banking over the village they had passed earlier. From the air, the perspective shifts. Waters looks down and sees the aftermath of his decision to stay out of the local conflict. The rebels have arrived, and the massacre is total. The sight of the carnage breaks something inside the lieutenant. In a moment that defies every regulation in the handbook, Waters orders the pilots to turn back. He lands the choppers, loads the most vulnerable children and wounded, and tells his team they are walking the rest to the Cameroon border. Lena, seeing the man behind the soldier for the first time, embraces him, not as a captive, but as an ally. The point of no return. When the helicopters return to the carrier without the SEAL team, the captain's fury is seismic. This is a rogue operation now. Over a static-filled radio, Waters explains that he couldn't leave them to be slaughtered. He begs for air support, for a big brother in the sky, but the captain's response is a bucket of cold water. The airspace is now contested and red. Waters and his men are officially on their own, trapped in a green hell with a small army on their heels. The silence is broken. As they push toward the border, they stumble upon a village in the midst of being pillaged. They witness atrocities that defy description, acts of cruelty that make the tactical mission seem insignificant. Waters looks at his men. They don't need an order. They see the horror of the genocide firsthand, and the rules of engagement are tossed aside. They engage the rebel force with a ferocity born of pure indignation, wiping out the attackers and saving the survivors. It is the moment they stop being an extraction team and start being a shield, the secret among the suffering. Waters realizes the rebels are tracking them with impossible accuracy. There is a leak. They discover a man among the refugees carrying a transmitter. He weeps as he confesses he was forced to betray them to save his own family from torture. But the transmitter isn't the only secret. The truth finally emerges. One of the refugees, a young man named Azuka, is the sole surviving son of the murdered Nigerian president. He is the last spark of the old government, and the rebels are committed to extinguishing his entire bloodline. The mission just became the pivot point for the entire nation's future. The final stand. Knowing the rebel commander is obsessed with killing Azuka, Waters decides to use the enemy's bloodlust against them. They set a sophisticated trap using the very transmitter that betrayed them. As the rebel vanguard closes in, a massive explosion rips through the jungle, vaporizing dozens of enemy combatants. It's a tactical victory, but it only serves to enrage the rebel commander, who doubles down, bringing the full weight of his army to bear on the small band of survivors. The border of life and death. The Cameroon border is in sight, but so is the end of their ammunition. A massive rebel force, 100 strong, catches up to them in the open. What follows is a brutal, chaotic gunfight. The SEALs, outnumbered 20-1, fight with a desperate heroism. One by one, members of Waters' team, men who followed him into this madness without question, begin to fall. Lena is wounded in the crossfire, and the sound of incoming mortars begins to walk toward their position. It feels like the end of the road. The cavalry arrives. They reach the gates of the Cameroon border, bleeding and broken, but the guards refuse to open them, fearing the war will spill over into their territory. As the rebel army prepares for the final, crushing blow, the sky suddenly screams. Two American F/A-18 Hornets streak across the horizon, unleashed at the last possible second. Missiles bloom like deadly flowers across the rebel line, decimating the pursuers in a rain of fire and steel. The giants in the sky have finally spoken. A new dawn. The gates swing open. The refugees surge forward into the safety of Cameroon, collapsing into the arms of family members in a scene of overwhelming emotion. As the dust settles, the cost of the mission is written in the blood on Waters' uniform. As the rescue choppers descend to take Waters and the wounded Lena away, the people don't just cheer for their survival. They hail Azuka. In the heart of the jungle, amidst the tears of the sun, a leader has been preserved and a soldier has found his humanity.